Hello and welcome to Chat with Channelizer. This is our series of informative webinars where we bring you the wealth and experience of our colleagues in the channel. We've got many more topics already recorded and available on Channelizer. Some of those are listed there. However, today we're talking about data quality, and that is with Stephen Farr. Steve Farr is the Product Marketing Director for Experian and has more than 20 years technology company experience with companies such as Microsoft, Tibco and RapidMiner. And in fact, Anne and I met him when we were at Microsoft together. Steve has first-hand knowledge of the Microsoft stack and their technologies, and also the use of data in enterprise businesses. Hence his more recent roles in data companies and now with Experian. And today our discussion is going to be around data quality, and then also what data projects there are sort of in prevalence in the channel today, such as data migration, analytics and reporting, and also the cost of bad data. So welcome, Steve. Are you there?
I am indeed. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you, Steve. So first of all, the first question is, why do we have bad data? What are the main causes of these quality issues?
So I suppose the traditional way of looking at bad data or data quality issues is because it was inputted wrong by someone. And maybe the system that you put it into didn't have the necessary controls. But that's really not the main issue, and is one of the reasons why we like to draw a distinction between bad data and data quality. Data quality issues might happen with data that was perfectly good when it was originally entered. It was entered in the right format at the right time, and it was completely accurate. But the problem is that we have a lot of complexity around our systems, and things can have poor qualities from different lenses. So if you've got a multiplicity of systems and indeed channels, especially talking here obviously about retail, where data has been entered in different systems by different people from different areas, for example, being entered directly by your consumers. Your consumers tell you who they are. They tell you that you're Jackie Rand one day, or Jay Rand the following day, or Mrs. J Rand the day after that. You may even choose to use a previous name. Obviously, women quite often change their names. So these types of things just create an issue where you have no single view of any particular data item. You have then within those systems what's allowable as a metadata structure, so how many characters are allowed and all those sorts of things, and those can differ. Obviously there are international issues, particularly we think about dates there. Is it UK date, US date, ISO date, those types of things. Data quality can diminish over time. So you are Jackie Rand today, but I know that when I met you, you were called Jackie Sasarath.
I was indeed.
And you would have left a big digital footprint across the world as Jackie Sasarath. Now, how do we reconcile those two things? And it's not just with people. I'm talking about contact data here, but it happens with stock codes. It happens with manufacturing process codes. It happens with lots and lots of things. Over time, data gets superseded by new ways of describing it. New regulations appear which say that you now have to record new data items. So one of the things under GDPR, for example, is that you have to record if you hold any personal identifiable information against under 16-year-olds. Many organizations won't have any flags in their systems, in their source systems, to identify that. And so that's a data quality issue, if you wish. The whole thing about my truth is not your truth, which is an interesting one. This crops up with, again, things like stock codes, inventory codes, where the way that you describe it in your warehouse is not the same way that your supplier describes it. And if it's not a unique item, but one that you source from many different suppliers, there might be many different descriptions of that particular item. So you get that type of issue as well. And then just the basic, the data is incomplete. It isn't fit for the task that you want to perform, and needs to be augmented, enhanced in some way with the addition of extra data. So if you were going to, I don't know, put together a marketing campaign in a particular area, you might want to add geocoding information to that data, which you might not get simply through when your customers register on a web form because they don't know their geocoding information. So you need to augment it.
Goodness, my head is spinning already. What seemed like a really straightforward question. And you're right, I guess everyone's digital footprint changes, and the use of Miss, Mrs. and Ms alone can make that incredibly difficult. But as you've now explained it, and you can see how those different points impact the data. But data quality is really under the radar compared to a lot of the more prevalent technologies like machine learning, AI. It's all front of mind in the news.
Yeah.
How do you get the attention of some of these big companies, big corporations, and actually kind of seek their budget for projects?
So I think it's quite interesting. So we do an annual survey. It goes out to about 1,400 data managers across enterprise and mid-market businesses across the world. And I think there is a growing realization about data quality. And really that has been driven by quite a lot of these initiatives in things like AI and data analytics, where people are starting to get hold of the data, trying to understand the data, and they produce a great visualization or something like that, and they realize that actually a lot of the data that's coming into that visualization or that analysis isn't clean, and so they need to go back a stage. And you see these numbers here: 83% surveyed said poor data hurts their business initiatives. And 86% see value in implementing a data quality initiative. So it's something that is becoming front of mind. You're starting to see reports from Gartner and Forrester talking about these issues, and really saying that if we are headlong into the digital age, then all the ones and zeros have to be in alignment before we can start doing, controlling our lives with robots and machine learning and deep learning and all of those sorts of things. So it's a really interesting time to be around what some people think is quite a dry subject in data quality.
Indeed, there's a lot of talk, as you say, about sort of digital transformation and how that is sort of leading a lot of projects. So, and I would imagine GDPR is also driving a lot of these projects. Can you give us some more sort of instances of where something like GDPR is actually driving the new projects for data analytics?
Yeah, so we see a number of forces behind the growth in interest in data quality. Obviously, there's big data, as I mentioned on the previous slide. There's also compliance, and of course, compliance is in everyone's mind because of GDPR coming in.
Indeed,
it's in May. Yeah. It's in May. It's not very far away. Gartner says that 50% of organisations, don't feel that they're going to be in full compliance with its requirements. And so we are seeing, so I talked about that thing earlier with the under 16-year-olds, but there's a whole number of clauses in the GDPR which point to areas where if you don't have clean data around PII, personally identifiable information, then you're going to find a lot of issues with your GDPR project. So, for example, we have things like citizen access requests. And a citizen access request can say things like, I want you to correct some information on me, or indeed, I want you to forget about me. And that has to be processed within a certain amount of time. Not a very long amount of time. Well, so if we say, okay, let's take Jackie Rand. Well, where were you recorded on that particular? Let's say it's a retailer's systems. You're probably going to be in their CRM system. You might be in some sort of operational data warehouse. You might have sent them some emails. They might even have contacted you directly on Twitter. You're likely to be in their finance system on orders and invoices and so on and so forth. They're likely to have your credit card information that might be stored in a separate e-commerce application. There's going to be all sorts of places where you're going to crop up. And the first task is just finding where you are, and of course whether you're Jackie Rand or Jackie Sasarath in all of those, and whether you're Mrs. J Sasarath or Miss J Sasarath or Ms. J Sasarath or Mrs. J, and all of these issues start to come to the fore. And so that's leading to people to think, well, we probably need to consolidate a lot of our systems. I mean, do we have redundant information on people that we could bring into one more centralized area, and then could we discover exactly all the places where this type of information is available? And it may not even be your name, Jackie. It may just be some transactions, your address, your date of birth that point to you as an individual, because that can be derived. That's derived information. It's personally identifiable information, not necessarily your name. So if the data is bad, if I can't remember how to spell Sasarath, maybe you can't either, but I'm sure I'd get it wrong. If it's spelt incorrectly, then do I lose that record? And when you make your citizen access request, do I fail to actually delete you from our systems?
Interesting.
And so that's one of the big things we see around data quality underlying any GDPR project.
Can I just ask, does that mean when I ask to be deleted from people phoning me for PPI, they actually have to do so and can't phone me the next day again?
Well, GDPR applies to everyone.
Fantastic. I would love to stop those calls.
Now, whether you get anywhere with that, of course, is another thing. But
indeed. So, sorry, I interrupted. With regards to all of those, what are the kind of key things that the channel can do to try and utilize this change in data quality for projects and take advantage of this with some of their customers?
So it's about applying methodologies and tools that are going to, first of all, discover where the data sits. And there are a number of applications. We, for example, at Experian are partnering with an organization called Waterline, which is an interesting name of a company if you think about below the waterline. And they have very interesting technologies, and other technologies that are available, that will look across your systems to identify and then catalog exactly where this data is. And on the basis that it is personally identifiable information. So Waterline is a really interesting technology, and then you need to place good data governance rules on top. And again, there are great tools out there now to help you implement data governance that will make sure that all the rules you need to implement are implemented over time. And then there are data cleansing and data quality tools that can bring your existing data up to a state where it is clean and fit for purpose. And then lastly, there are tools out there that will help you to process things like citizen access requests in an efficient way, and indeed help people to manage their own identities within your systems.
Interesting. So basically, Experian has a lot of tools for the channel. Is that right, for them to access and use with their projects? Precisely. Excellent.
But we also see a couple of other areas, outside of GDPR, and one of those is data migrations, which you're just about to ask me about.
Exactly. Marvelous. I was just going to say, you mentioned there in terms of moving projects forward and data migration. Some of the key areas that a customer is going to be looking for data migration. Can you just talk around the data quality importance so that you're not taking obviously bad data through to the next project?
Exactly. So, I mean, this is something that when I started working on this again at Experian, really reminded me of my time in the Microsoft channel, where there was this big boom of new systems going in, and of course you need to take data from the old system and put it into the new system, and actually that's come around again, and we're seeing rates of growth in CRM and ERP that really haven't been seen since well, in terms of ERP, certainly since the late 90s. I think we're seeing 8% annual growth in ERP, 16% growth in CRM systems. And really what's driving that, and it's also true of HR systems and a whole bunch of other things as well, is the move to the cloud. And the cloud is the technical driver. There's also M&A activity that's always been there in the past, and some systems rationalization that occur because of things like GDPR. But what it means is that Gartner said recently that the data migration industry is now worth $18 billion worldwide, which is huge. There are more people moving more data between more systems than ever before. And as you said quite rightly, in terms of things like user acceptance of those new systems, the last thing you want to be doing is taking your old, rubbish, unclean data that's deteriorated over time and bringing it into your shiny new cloud environment. And so that's also an area where Experian can help with tools and indeed with services. Doing bulk data cleansing as a bureau service, but also helping you maintain that over time and manage your data migration in a more controlled way using tools like Experian Pandora and Experian Aperture.
Interesting. And in terms of the cost, can you give some kind of figure? Because I think it's not scaremongering, but I think being able to kind of benchmark the importance of having the quality of the data. Have you got some facts and figures that you can share with us?
Yeah, so again, this is something that we try to look at in our annual survey. So it says here, 72% agree that data quality issues impact customer trust and perception, and of course that's I'm guessing, but I'm guessing that figure is going to increase as we get into GDPR, and consumers are going to want to think about their trusted suppliers. So in a B2B space, we always think about trusted suppliers, but in a B2C space, maybe that's now coming through things like GDPR. Who do I trust with my data? Not just, am I going to get the best price for this thing that I want to buy online? And that, of course, we've seen various issues happen, and I think that's going to come to the fore. So if your data quality is good, if you can serve the right message to the right customer at the right time, when they want that message, you are likely to become a trusted supplier to that customer. And indeed, that can give you a commercial advantage.
Good, thank you, Steve. I think you summed it up perfectly, which is the quality of the data, particularly with cloud and with GDPR and a number of other initiatives. In terms of data migration, digital transformation, all the stuff we're hearing about a lot in the channel, you have to have the right quality of data, and you guys obviously have some tools to help the channel with that. So I thank you very much for your contribution. Really, really interesting. There's some notes on the screen right now. There is Steve Farr's email, and in terms of those of you who wish to join our group called Chat with Channelizer, it's free to join on Channelizer on the platform, and there's lots of other videos recording of other chats with industry experts. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you very much, Jackie, for the opportunity to talk to you today.